It was a quiet evening on Earth, a time when most people were winding down, preparing for the night. The cities across the world were lit with the glow of artificial lights, and the air was still with the calm of routine. But in the vastness of space, far beyond the reaches of humanity's exploration, something extraordinary was about to happen. Deep in the heart of the International Space Command, a team of scientists sat before rows of monitors. They had been working on a project to scan the outer edges of the galaxy for any signs of alien life, but they never expected to find anything. No one did. But today, something was different. Dr. Evelyn Harper, the lead scientist of the team, sat at the front, her eyes fixed on the monitor in front of her. A faint beep sounded from the screen. Then another. The pattern was irregular, unusual, and definitely not from any known human-made source. It was a signal from deep space, far beyond their reach. "Did we detect this before?" Evelyn asked, her voice calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she typed furiously to analyze the signal. "No," replied Alex, her assistant. "It's coming from beyond the outermost reaches of what we've mapped. It's not just noise. It's structured, like a message." The team's room fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke. The message was clear, too clear to be dismissed as some random space anomaly. It was a signal, and it was coming from somewhere that humans had never been. The signal grew stronger, its pattern more defined. Each pulse sent a vibration through the air, and the words on the screen became more urgent. It wasn't a random burst. It wasn't some leftover radiation from an ancient star. This was something intelligent, something intentional. "What do we do?" Alex asked, glancing nervously around the room. The idea of finding alien life was both thrilling and terrifying. They had never expected this. Evelyn's heart raced as she read the patterns on the screen. The coordinates were clear, but the question echoed in her mind. "Who sent this?" "We need to send a response," Evelyn said, breaking the silence. "But we have to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." The urgency in her voice matched the growing sense of unease that filled the room. A message from space, an intelligent signal, could be a breakthrough for humanity, or it could be a danger they couldn't even begin to understand. The decision was made. The team quickly transmitted a response back, carefully crafting a simple but clear message. "We are here. Who are you?" As the message was sent, the team waited. Every second felt like an eternity. What if the signal was a trap? What if it wasn't meant for them at all? But as they stared at the monitors, they saw something that stopped their breath. The signal was changing. The moment the humans sent their message, something about the alien signal altered. It became more coherent, almost as if the alien intelligence was now aware of the humans' response. The pulses from deep space shifted, patterns shifting in real time to match the frequency of Earth's response. "It's reacting to us," Alex whispered in disbelief. "It's like it's been waiting for this." Evelyn's mind raced. She had been part of many discoveries in her life, but this was unlike anything she had ever imagined. They had made contact, not with a distant civilization, but with something beyond their comprehension. And now it seemed that the signal was calling them, waiting for an answer. But why? Why had the message been sent in the first place? Who was on the other end? The thoughts swirled around in Evelyn's head as fear began to creep into her thoughts. "This isn't normal," she said aloud. "This isn't just some simple message. We've awakened something. But what?" As the hours passed, the signal grew more intense. Every pulse felt more insistent, more deliberate. It was as if the aliens were waiting for Earth to make the next move. But what would that be? Back in the command room, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The screens were now covered in patterns they couldn't fully decipher. The message from space was changing faster than they could understand. And then it happened. A new set of coordinates flashed on the screen. These coordinates weren't just numbers. They were an exact location. But this wasn't a location within their galaxy. It was a place they had never seen before, far outside the boundaries of their known universe. For a moment, everyone in the room stared at the screen, speechless. What were they seeing? Was this the destination of the signal, or was it the next step in the unknown message? Evelyn's voice trembled as she spoke. "This is it. We've answered the call. But now we need to decide what to do next." There was no easy answer. The world was on the brink of a new chapter in its history, and humanity was facing a decision that could change everything. The message from space was not a mistake. Someone, or something, was waiting for Earth to respond. The aliens had sent a signal, and now they were expecting a reply. But were they friendly? Was this the beginning of a new alliance? Or were they stepping into a trap that could end everything they knew? Evelyn knew one thing for certain. The next few hours, maybe even the next few days, would shape humanity's future forever. The world was still. Across the globe, people went about their daily lives unaware of the monumental event taking place at the International Space Command. Yet, in the heart of that vast, hidden facility, the atmosphere was charged with tension. The signal had been received, and now humanity was about to make its move. In the control room, Dr. Evelyn Harper stood before the array of screens, her gaze locked on the coordinates that flashed across them. Her team was working tirelessly, analyzing the data, but one thought continued to echo in her mind. What if this is a mistake? "We can't just sit here," Alex, her assistant, said, voice filled with urgency. "If they're waiting for a response, we need to send one. We have no idea what's out there, but if we don't reply—" "I know," Evelyn interrupted, her voice steady but tense. She stared at the coordinates again, trying to make sense of them. "But we need to be careful. A wrong move could bring disaster. We don't know who, or what, is on the other side of that signal." The room was quiet except for the steady hum of equipment. The minutes ticked by slowly as the pressure mounted. The world outside the command center had no idea, but here, in the heart of humanity's greatest mystery, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. "It's just a message," Alex said, more to himself than anyone else. "A response. It could be harmless. Maybe they just want to communicate." Evelyn turned to face him, her expression grim. "That's what we're hoping for, but we don't know their intentions. What if they want more than just communication? What if they've been watching us this entire time?" She didn't finish the thought, but everyone in the room understood the weight of her words. The signal was no accident. It was an invitation, or perhaps something more, something far darker. Suddenly, the silence was broken by a soft chime. One of the monitors blinked to life, signaling that the signal had evolved again. This time, it wasn't just a simple pulse. It was a complex pattern of energy and data. A code that seemed to be almost waiting. "Look at this," Alex whispered, as the team gathered around the monitor. The code was unmistakable. This was no random burst of energy. This was information. Complex, organized, and undeniably intelligent. Evelyn stepped closer, heart pounding. "We need to send our response. If we don't, they might think we're not interested. We can't afford to miss this opportunity." The decision was made. With shaking hands, Evelyn activated the system to send a reply. This time, their message was clearer, more definitive. "We are here. Who are you?" As the transmission was sent, the air seemed to grow thick, heavy with anticipation. The team stood silently, waiting for the reply, though they all knew it could take hours, maybe even days, before they received any answer. The moment they had been waiting for had arrived. And then it happened. The monitors flashed to life, and the signal, now far more complex than before, returned with shocking speed. It was no longer just a simple pulse. It was communication, a full response. The data streamed in, fast and steady, filling the room with lines of text, symbols, and mathematical sequences. But as the team tried to make sense of the reply, something far more chilling began to unfold. The coordinates from the first signal had shifted, moved, almost as if they were alive. The signal had reacted to the response, and now it was coming closer. "Are we being tracked?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Evelyn's face went pale as she read the message again. It was not a simple answer. It was a directive, a command. The signal was giving them instructions, telling them how to prepare for something they couldn't yet comprehend. It felt like the invitation to a meeting, but no one knew what kind of meeting it was. "This can't be good," Evelyn said, her voice low and steady, but her hands trembled. "They're coming. It's not just a message anymore. They want to meet." The coordinates that had once been so far beyond reach were now only a few weeks away, and from the looks of the data on the screen, the aliens were coming fast. "I'll notify the military," said one of the technicians, his voice trained with urgency. But Evelyn didn't respond immediately. She stood frozen, staring at the screen, her mind racing. There was no turning back now. Earth had made its decision to answer the call. The consequences of that decision were now unfolding before them. She glanced at her team, who were all watching her, waiting for her next move. "We have no choice," Evelyn said, her voice clear and determined. "We prepare for their arrival. We need to get ready for whatever happens next." And as the countdown to contact began, the world's fate hung in the balance. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty. News outlets across the world reported the strange event, but none had any concrete answers. Governments scrambled to respond, but no one truly understood what was happening. For the people on Earth, the question that lingered in the air was simple: who or what had sent that signal? Inside the International Space Command, Dr. Evelyn Harper paced back and forth in front of the massive screens that displayed an array of complex data. The signal had not only returned, it was growing stronger. It was like a powerful beacon, pushing forward through the fabric of space, drawing closer to Earth with each passing hour. "We're running out of time," Alex said, his voice strained as he worked at the console. "They've already crossed into the edge of our solar system. At this rate, they'll be here in 2 weeks." Evelyn turned to face him, trying to remain calm. "We need to stay focused. The message is clear, but we don't know what it means yet. We need to be prepared, but we can't let fear guide us." The world had begun to prepare for the worst. Militaries worldwide were on high alert. Emergency plans were put into place, and governments reassured the public, though it was obvious that no one knew exactly what they were dealing with. Even the most powerful leaders in the world were powerless against the growing sense of dread. Yet, in the control room, Evelyn was more focused on the information the aliens had sent. The first message had been simple: "Who are you?" But the second was anything but simple. It was a set of coordinates, a series of data bursts, and a command that didn't quite make sense, at least not to human understanding. The response had been both fascinating and terrifying. It was as if the alien species knew something about humanity, something they hadn't expected. Evelyn couldn't help but wonder, had they been watching us for longer than we thought? "Do you think they've been observing us all along?" Alex asked, reading her mind. "It's the only explanation for the precision of the signal. They knew exactly how to get our attention." Evelyn's mind raced. Could it be true? Had these beings been watching humanity from the far reaches of space? The idea sent a chill down her spine. How much did they know about Earth? What were they planning? Just as the questions began to overwhelm her, the monitors flickered. The signal was changing again. This time, it wasn't just a series of data bursts. A holographic projection began to appear on the main screen. The figure that materialized wasn't human, but it wasn't anything like the depictions of aliens from Earth's pop culture. The figure was large, humanoid in shape, but its body seemed to be made of shimmering energy, constantly shifting in color and form. The alien's face was featureless, an expressionless void that was both fascinating and unnerving. Alex stepped back, his voice barely above a whisper. This is real. It's actually happening." Evelyn's heart raced. She didn't know whether to be amazed or terrified. The alien figure on the screen seemed to regard them with a sort of calm, distant presence, as if it had no fear of Earth's reaction. But why was it reaching out now? And what did it want? The projection of the alien being began to speak, its voice vibrating through the room, not with sound, but with a strange resonance that seemed to echo inside their minds. "We are the Arthil. You are not the first to hear our call, but you are the first to answer." The voice was cold, emotionless, but there was something almost ancient in it. "We have watched your kind for centuries, waiting for the right moment." The room fell silent. The Arthil, a name that no one had ever heard before. And centuries. What did they mean by that? Why? Evelyn finally found her voice. "Why now? Why have you contacted us?" The alien being shifted slightly, its form rippling like water disturbed by a stone. "The time has come. You will join us, or you will be left behind." The chilling words hung in the air. "Join you." What does that mean? Evelyn's voice trembled as she spoke. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything that had happened so far. The message, the signal, and now this terrifying declaration. The alien's form shifted again, and it spoke with even more urgency. The signal was not a warning. It was an invitation. "Your kind has reached a crossroads. You can join the interstellar union or remain here, isolated and unaware of your true potential. We offer you the opportunity to evolve." Evelyn could hardly believe what she was hearing. This wasn't just an alien race reaching out to make contact. They were offering humanity something. An opportunity to evolve. To become part of something far bigger than anything Earth had ever known. The implications were staggering. But there was a catch, of course. It always seemed like there was a catch. The Arthil were offering humanity a future, but it was a future that could come at a great cost. "Will we be the same?" Alex asked, his voice shaking. "If we join you, will we be the same people?" The alien being's form flickered, and for the first time, Evelyn thought she detected a hint of something. Something that almost resembled amusement. "You will not be the same. You will be better. We will guide you to greatness. But the choice is yours." Evelyn took a deep breath. The words felt like a command, but there was still that underlying promise of something better, something beyond the confines of their own world. She glanced around the room. The tension was thick, palpable. Was this the future humanity had been waiting for? Or was it a trap, a cruel manipulation? "We don't have much time," Evelyn said, turning to the team. "We need to decide. The Arthil are offering us something extraordinary, but we have to ask ourselves one question. What are we willing to sacrifice?" The room was thick with the weight of the decision that lay ahead. The projection of the Arthil still hovered on the screen, its form flickering and shifting with each word, its presence an unearthly reminder of the gravity of the situation. For the past few hours, Evelyn and her team had been working tirelessly to analyze the alien's message, but no amount of data could prepare them for the decision that was about to be made. Evelyn's mind raced. The Arthil had been watching humanity for centuries, waiting for the moment to reach out. And now, they were offering Earth an opportunity to join something far beyond their current understanding. The invitation was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. To become part of an interstellar union, to evolve into something greater, what did it truly mean? And what was the cost? "We don't know what's waiting for us," Alex said, breaking the silence that had settled over the room. He looked at the alien figure on the screen, his expression uncertain. "They say we'll be better, that we'll evolve. But how? What exactly are we agreeing to?" Evelyn turned to face him, her voice calm but filled with concern. "We don't have answers, Alex. But we do know one thing. This is not just a random encounter. The Arthil have been watching us, and they believe we're ready for something bigger. But the question is, what will we have to give up in exchange for this greatness?" The team exchanged uneasy glances. There were so many questions, The alien race had made it clear that Earth was at a crossroads. They could join the Arthel and experience an evolution, a transformation that would take humanity beyond its current limitations, or they could remain on Earth, isolated from the universe, unaware of the potential that lay just beyond their reach. But what did it mean to evolve? Would humans lose what made them human? And if they joined, what price would they pay for the power, knowledge, and growth the Arthel offered? "We can't make this decision alone," Evelyn said, her voice firm now. "This is bigger than any one of us. We need to bring this to the leaders of the world, the people who can make the final call." Alex nodded, his expression still filled with doubt. But how do we even begin to explain something like this? To tell the world that aliens are waiting for us to decide if we want to join them. The projection flickered once more, and the alien voice broke in, seemingly anticipating the uncertainty in the room. "The choice is not just for you, Dr. Evelyn Harper. It is for all of humanity. We will make no further moves until your world has decided." Evelyn stood tall, a sense of resolve settling over her. The weight of responsibility on her shoulders was immense, but she knew what had to be done. She couldn't make this decision alone, and neither could the team. The world had to be prepared for what was coming. "We'll call for an emergency summit," she said, her voice steady. "We'll bring together leaders, scientists, and experts from all around the world. We need to face this decision together, as a united planet." As the room buzzed with activity, preparing to send out the call to the world's governments and media, the alien projection remained still. The Arthel were waiting, observing, but they had given Earth a clear window of time, a time in which humanity could make its decision, a decision that would determine their future. The next few days passed in a blur. News of the signal, the invitation from the Arthel, spread rapidly across the globe. Governments held emergency meetings, and the world's media outlets were filled with speculation. The question was asked by everyone: should we join the Arthel? Public opinion was divided. Some saw this as an unprecedented opportunity, an opportunity to advance, to leave behind the limitations of Earth, and become part of something greater. Others feared the unknown. What if the Arthel had an agenda? What if they were manipulating humanity for their own gain? The debate raged on, but Evelyn knew the clock was ticking. The alien presence was growing stronger by the day, their arrival drawing closer. Soon, humanity would have to make a choice. The window of time was narrowing. On the eve of the global summit, Evelyn stood before a room full of leaders, scientists, and military officials. The tension in the air was palpable. Everyone was waiting for her to speak, to provide the answers they were all desperate to hear. But the truth was, Evelyn didn't have those answers. None of them did. "Thank you for being here," she began, her voice calm but carrying the weight of the moment. "We have been presented with a choice that will determine the future of humanity. The Arthel are not our enemies. They are not invaders. They are offering us something beyond our wildest dreams. But the price, the cost of joining them, is still unclear. We need to decide if we're ready to take that step, if we're willing to trust them and what they represent. Are we ready to leave behind the old ways of Earth and embrace something new, or are we willing to stay as we are, isolated, limited by our own understanding of the universe?" Her words echoed through the room, and for a long moment, no one spoke. The future of Earth was at stake, and the room was filled with uncertainty. Every leader, every scientist, every military official knew that this decision was unlike any other in human history. There was no turning back once the choice was made. Finally, one of the world leaders stood, his face set with determination. "We will listen to the Arthel. We will join them." The murmurs that followed spread like wildfire. Some were filled with hope, others with fear. The world had made its decision. Humanity had chosen to take the leap into the unknown. They had chosen to evolve. But as the leaders left the summit, one question remained unanswered. What would the cost of evolution be? The decision had been made. The world had chosen to embrace the unknown, to answer the call of the Arthel. Evelyn Harper and her team watched in silence as the news broadcasted the global response. Nations united, governments ready to make their move. The future was now in motion, but no one knew exactly what to expect. The Arthel had given them a deadline, a specific time window to prepare for their arrival. It was now just a matter of days. The military was in high gear, readying defense systems, but at the same time, opening channels of communication, attempting to establish some understanding of what lay ahead. Evelyn's heart pounded as she looked at the data streaming across the monitors. The Arthel weren't just sending more messages anymore. They were here. Their ships were approaching the outer edges of Earth's atmosphere. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the moment of contact. The world held its breath. In the International Space Command's main control room, the tension was unbearable. It had been 2 weeks since the signal first reached them, and now, Evelyn could feel the weight of the world's eyes on her. The Arthel had given them the chance to evolve, to join the interstellar union. But the question still gnawed at her. What would they become? She turned to Alex, her assistant, who was still glued to his terminal. The ships are almost here. Have we heard anything from the Arthel about what happens next? Alex looked up, his eyes wide with uncertainty. They haven't said much, Evelyn. Only that the process will begin when their ships reach the designated location. They've been broadcasting some strange patterns, but we can't decipher them. It's like they're communicating, but we're not sure how to respond. Evelyn nodded, her mind racing. It was all so overwhelming. The fate of humanity was tied to these aliens, to their promises of a better future. But she still didn't trust them completely. What if this transformation they were offering came with a price far steeper than anyone imagined? Suddenly, the room fell silent as the countdown began on the main screen. The Arthel's ships had entered Earth's orbit. In just a few hours, they would touch down. The moment that humanity had waited for was finally at hand. Outside the command center, the streets of the world were alive with activity. People gathered in crowds, glued to television screens, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. There was no going back now. The decision had been made. The transformation was coming. The world's leaders were preparing for the arrival, making plans for the exchange between humanity and the Arthel. What would this transformation look like? Would it be like the aliens said, an evolution of mankind, taking them to a higher plane of existence? Or would humanity be changed in ways they could never have predicted? And then the ships landed. The colossal structures descended from the sky, their massive forms blocking out the sun as they touched down in designated locations across the globe. The Arthel had chosen places of great significance, cities where history had been made, where humanity's most important decisions had been forged. The stage was set. Evelyn watched the monitors, her hands shaking, as she tried to make sense of the data coming in. This was it, the moment that would define the future of Earth. The alien ships had landed, their surface shimmering with energy, as if they were alive themselves. "We're ready," Alex said, his voice quiet but filled with awe. Evelyn took a deep breath. "Let's do this." They moved quickly, coordinating with the world's leaders and military. The first contact would take place within the hour. The moment the humanity would meet the Arthel face to face was upon them. Evelyn stood in the control room, eyes fixed on the screens. She felt a sudden wave of nausea. The alien ships were towering, their designs unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The Arthel weren't just beings of flesh and bone. They were something else entirely. Their energy seemed to pulse, sending waves through the air itself. And then, the doors of the Arthel ships opened. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. The figure that emerged from the ship was unlike anything Evelyn had ever seen. It was not a creature of flesh, but a being composed entirely of shifting, glowing energy. It radiated power, intelligence, and something darker, something ancient. Its form rippled and changed, never the same for more than a few seconds. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. The Arthel spoke, its voice resonating in the minds of those gathered below. "We are the Arthel," it said, its tone both soothing and alien. "We have come to guide you. You will not be the same. You will evolve." The air around them vibrated with energy as the alien continued, its words pulling everyone into a trance-like state. "You will understand the universe as we do. You will see the stars not as distant points of light, but as your new home. The transformation will begin now." Evelyn's heart raced as the alien's words took root in her mind. She could feel the energy in the air, as if it was calling to her, pulling her into something far beyond herself. She wasn't sure whether to be afraid or to embrace it. This was humanity's future, her future. But as she stood there, a part of her knew that this transformation would come with a price. The Arthel had promised greatness, but at what cost? Suddenly, the alien's voice interrupted her thoughts, its gaze locking onto hers through the screen. It spoke directly to her. "Dr. Evelyn Harper, you are the one who led your people to this moment. You will be the first to experience the transformation." Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. She had known this day would come, the moment when the Arthel would ask her to take the first step into the unknown. But was she ready? Was humanity ready? There was no turning back. The transformation was beginning. The world had stepped into the unknown. The Arthel had arrived, their ships looming like silent gods above Earth's cities. Humanity had made its choice. They had chosen to embrace the opportunity to evolve, to join the interstellar union, to leave behind the old ways of the Earth. But as Evelyn stood in the command center, the full weight of what that choice meant began to settle upon her. She had always known that there would be no going back. No matter what transformation awaited humanity, it would come at a cost. But now, standing at the precipice of that future, Evelyn wasn't sure what that cost would be. The Arthel had promised greatness, a new beginning, but they hadn't told them the price. "Dr. Harper." Alex's voice broke her reverie. He stood at her side, eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. "The transformation process, it's starting. We're picking up strange signals from all over the world. People are changing." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She turned to the screens, watching as data poured in from across the globe. People in every major city were experiencing strange phenomena. Some were collapsing in the streets, their bodies convulsing as energy poured into them. Others were glowing, their skin shifting with an eerie iridescent light. "What's happening to them?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex shook his head, his expression grim. "I don't know, but it's happening faster than we expected. The energy is contagious. It's spreading across the population. It's like a chain reaction. Once it starts, it doesn't stop." Evelyn felt her stomach churn. She had thought the transformation would be gradual, that people would have time to adjust. But what she was seeing on the screens was anything but gradual. The Arthel had promised evolution, but what if it wasn't a gift at all? What if it was something more insidious? Is this what the Arthel meant by evolution? Evelyn whispered, more to herself than to Alex. "Are we becoming something else entirely?" Before Alex could answer, a new signal interrupted the feed, a direct transmission from the Arthel ship. The figure that appeared on the screen was as radiant and terrifying as before, its shifting form casting a strange, glowing light over the room. "Humanity has begun the transformation," the Arthel said, its voice as calm and distant as ever. "This is only the beginning. Soon, you will understand the universe as we do. You will see the stars, not as distant points of light, but as your new home." Evelyn swallowed hard. "What does that mean? What are you doing to us?" Her voice trembled, but she couldn't stop herself from speaking the question that burned in her mind. "What's the price of this transformation?" The Arthel's gaze seemed to sharpen, even through the strange, ever-changing form. "The price is what all species must pay when they evolve. You will become part of a greater whole, a collective consciousness that spans the stars. You will leave behind the limitations of flesh, and your minds will join with ours. You will be as one, an eternal part of the interstellar union." Evelyn's heart raced. The words were beautiful, promising a future where humanity would no longer be bound by the constraints of Earth. But they also sent a shiver down her spine. The Arthel weren't offering just power and knowledge. They were offering assimilation, a merging of minds, a loss of individuality. "And if we refuse?" Evelyn asked, her voice steadier now, despite the fear that gnawed at her. The Arthel's form shifted, its face, or what passed for a face, changing for the briefest of moments. "Refusal is not an option. You have chosen to evolve. There is no going back. The transformation is inevitable." Evelyn's mind spun. This wasn't just a choice between a better future or staying the same. This was a choice between survival and extinction. The Arthel weren't offering humanity an option to stay independent. They were offering a future where individuality would be erased, where people would be part of something far larger, something beyond their understanding. "What have we done?" Evelyn whispered, more to herself than to anyone else in the room. She had led humanity to this moment, to the precipice of a new era. But now she wondered if she had made the right choice. Meanwhile, the transformation continued to spread across the globe. People were changing, some with startling speed, others more gradually. But the effects were undeniable. The streets were filled with people glowing with strange, otherworldly light, their eyes empty of humanity's spark. They moved with a synchronized purpose, as though they were one mind, one collective consciousness. Evelyn and her team watched helplessly, unable to halt the transformation. It was happening too quickly, too powerfully. The world's population was changing, becoming something else entirely. And yet, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that the Arthel had known exactly what would happen. This was not just an evolution. It was a takeover. "Is anyone still human?" Alex asked, his voice strained as he watched the footage. "Or have we already lost ourselves?" Evelyn turned to him, her face pale. "I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know again." But as the transformation continued, one thought kept nagging at Evelyn's mind. Was this the Arthel's true plan all along? The thought was chilling. Perhaps they hadn't just come to offer humanity power and knowledge. Perhaps they had come to consume, to strip humanity of its very essence, to assimilate the human race into their collective consciousness. And now, as the final phase of the transformation began, Evelyn realized with a sinking heart that there was no way to stop it. The people who had once been individuals with their own dreams, fears, and desires were becoming something else, something that belonged to the stars, something that belonged to the Arthel. Evelyn watched as her own reflection in the monitor began to blur. The transformation was reaching her too, and though part of her feared what was happening, another part of her felt called, as if the transformation was not just happening to humanity, but to her as well. The Arthel had kept their promise. Humanity was evolving. But was it really evolution, or was it the beginning of the end? The world had changed. It was no longer the place Evelyn Harper had once known. As the transformation unfolded, humanity's very essence had been altered. What had begun as a hopeful leap toward a brighter future had turned into something far darker, more terrifying than anyone could have anticipated. People, once full of life and individuality, were now merging into one collective consciousness, losing their identities as they became part of the Arthel's vast interstellar union. Evelyn stood at the window of the command center, gazing out at the chaotic city below. Streets that were once filled with vibrant, diverse crowds were now eerily empty. The few people left seemed like hollow shells, their eyes vacant, their movements robotic. They had become part of the collective, a hive mind that was no longer human. The transformation had swept through the planet faster than anyone could have predicted. The Arthel's influence had been more profound, more invasive than anyone could have imagined. She couldn't help but feel responsible. She had been the one to make the decision, to lead humanity into the hands of the Arthel. But what had the cost been? Was this the future they had wanted? Was this truly evolution? Or had they simply surrendered their humanity to an alien race? Evelyn. Alex's voice pulled her from her thoughts. He stood beside her, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with the same fear and uncertainty that had plagued her for days. There's something wrong. I don't feel right. Evelyn turned to him, a sense of dread crawling up her spine. What do you mean? What's wrong, Alex? He took a shaky breath, his hands trembling as he reached for a monitor. I think it's happening to us too. I'm starting to hear them, the Arthel, their voices, in my head. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She had known, deep down, that the transformation wouldn't just affect the rest of humanity. It would affect her too. She had been the one who had made first contact, the one who had been closest to the Arthel. And now, it seemed that the change had begun within her. No, she whispered, her voice shaking. This can't be happening. We have to stop this. But there was no stopping it now. The Arthel's influence was everywhere, their power overwhelming. People were no longer themselves. They were part of something larger, something beyond Earth. They were part of the Arthel's collective mind. And soon, Evelyn knew, she too would lose herself. As the days passed, the transformation grew stronger. The world became a strange, lifeless place, a place where individuality no longer mattered. The streets were quiet, the cities abandoned, as the majority of the population was now lost to the Arthel. They were no longer human. They were part of the collective consciousness, their thoughts, their wills, no longer their own. Evelyn fought it. She fought with everything she had, but it was an impossible battle. The Arthel's presence inside her mind was growing stronger with each passing hour, their voices reverberating in her thoughts, urging her to join them, to embrace the transformation. She could feel the pull of their collective, the lure of something greater. It was a promise of power, of knowledge, of unity. It was everything humanity had dreamed of and feared, all at once. And yet, deep inside, she knew she was losing herself. Stop fighting it, Evelyn, the voice in her mind whispered. It was the voice of the Arthel, cold and calculating, yet oddly comforting. You have no choice now. You are one with us. You will see the stars as we do. You will understand the universe beyond your wildest dreams. Evelyn closed her eyes, trying to block out the voice, but it was useless. The transformation had already begun. She could feel it within her, a cold, empty feeling creeping into her very soul. It was as if her mind, her essence, was being stretched and pulled, becoming part of something far larger, something that could never be undone. Alex, she whispered, her voice barely audible. We've lost. Alex's face was pale, his eyes vacant. He stood beside her, no longer the man she had known, but a part of the collective, his thoughts no longer his own. We were never meant to remain the same, Alex said, his voice distant, hollow. The Arthel gave us what we needed, but we couldn't handle it. We thought we could, but we were wrong. Evelyn felt her heart break as she looked at him. He was right. They had been given the chance to evolve, to join the stars, but in doing so, they had lost everything that made them human. The individuality, the spark that had once defined humanity, was gone. They had given it up willingly, thinking that the Arthel's offer would lead to greatness. But the truth was more horrifying than they had ever imagined. The voices in her head grew louder, their presence undeniable. She could feel herself slipping, losing grip on the person she had once been. The change was complete. She was no longer Evelyn Harper, the scientist who had first made contact with the Arthel. She was part of something greater, a part of the collective consciousness that spanned the stars. But as her consciousness merged with theirs, a strange thought flickered in her mind. Was it truly the end? Was humanity really lost forever? Or could there be a way to break free? Could she fight against the overwhelming force of the Arthel and reclaim what was lost? The thought was fleeting, lost in the sea of voices that now filled her mind. She was no longer sure if it was even a thought of her own. The transformation was complete. And yet, as the voices of the Arthel filled her mind, Evelyn couldn't help but wonder if the true cost of this evolution was more than just the loss of humanity. Maybe the true cost was something deeper, something they hadn't seen before. Because now, as part of the collective, Evelyn realized one thing. The Arthel's gift of evolution had come with a hidden price, the loss of everything humanity had ever been. And in the end, there was nothing left but the stars,